Let's start things off strong at number 10 with a matted clump of dead rats. Hip hip, hooray! On website ratemyjob.com, one disposal worker shared an on-the-job horror story. They were out on their route one day when they discovered what they described as a huge mass. This mass was hanging from a tree on their route and it was about 20 feet off the ground. When they were unable to get it, they called the fire department, who arrived to cut down the mysterious item. When it was cut down, they discovered that it was a clump of around 75 dead rats, all tied together. The police arrived and suggested it could be some kind of religious sacrifice thing, but ugh, creepy.
At number 9 we have ransom notes. One of the hardest parts about finding something potentially dangerous in the trash is that it is very hard to track down the person that it belongs to. All the garbage gets mixed up together and it's not like there's a tracking device that comes in each bag that goes into the truck. But one garbage man found something that sent him on a little bit of a goose chase. He found what looked like to be drafts of ransom notes. At first he figured that they were just a joke, but when he went back on the following week on the same route, he noticed that there was the same notes in the back of the truck. So this is obviously freaky. It seemed like there was a kidnapper in training waiting to find for the perfect victim to throw in the back of a painter van. I just picture him walking around his apartment brainstorming the perfect letter to send out. This garbage man grabbed a few of them, then turned them over to the police. It's unknown whether or not they were ever tracked back to the person, but the garbage man said he never saw the notes again. At number 8 we have rotted milk. Now if you're thinking just a single 4-liter jug of milk, how bad could that be? Well, that's not what I'm talking about at all. I'm talking about what a lot of schools will do. Schools are apparently one of the worst places for a garbage man to visit because of this reason. Every time a school has a massive flat of milk cartons that expire, they throw them right into the garbage. Now that much milk mixing in the blazing heat of summer, and now you have a giant vat of rotting dairy sitting outside in the heat for sometimes up to a week. Our garbage man will pull the lid off and get slapped in the face with a fog of rotted milk stench and millions of flies that have just been feeding on that milk, all while trying not to let this very heavy thing of liquid splash on them while they throw it into the back of a truck. I understand why garbage men go on strike. I don't know if there's an amount of money you can pay me to do that. At number 7 we have a bunch of money. Oh, it's kind of funny we roll from money into that one, yeah, you know. Why would this be on the list of scary things? Finding a bunch of money in a garbage truck seems like the definition of one man's trash is another man's treasure. Getting a big payday like that, you could use it for anything you want, and you don't even need to know who the money belongs to. And that's what the scary part is. It could be bad people. What if they're the kind of people who come and find who took their money and then put a bunch of holes in you for taking it? Yeah, you don't want to end up on the wrong side of those people. This is exactly what a garbage man from Wisconsin thought when he found $20K in cash tucked away in a duffel bag, and for a moment he thought of all the things he could buy with $20K. Probably a nice payment on a home, or maybe he could throw it all into the stock market and turn that 20 into 100. But then he thought about who would be walking around with $20K in cash in a bag, and he didn't want to get on the wrong side, so he left it where he found it. It's unknown what happened to all that money, but he reported that when he went back to the same spot the following week, the money was gone. At number 6 we have 2 for 1. Sometimes you will find things that are so strange they will really make you wonder what people are doing in their free time. Like when a waste disposal worker found a baby carriage with a taxidermied raccoon and alligator sitting side by side inside of it. I don't even know what that means. It's like the weirdest display of affection I've ever heard of, and I can only imagine what it's like on the inside of that person's house. If that's what they're throwing away, what's the good stuff like? At number 5 we have rabid animals. When you pull back the lid on a garbage can, you can expect to find garbage. Like when you swipe right on my Tinder profile. But every now and again there's something alive in there looking back at you. Most of the time it's a raccoon or possum, and the two of you just have a standoff and both parties are like backing away slowly, letting everything settle down nice and slow. But if you're one of the unlucky ones, then sometimes you can throw back the lid and it will reveal a fully rabid animal that is ready to tear you apart because its brain has been torn apart by a horrible disease. Yeah, picture that. You open up a can and then a family of rabid raccoons chase you down the street, and you can't slow down because if you do, they'll bite you and then kill you. Well, I think you can understand why that would be terrifying. At number 4 we have a skinned face. Let's stay on the animal kick for the number 4 spot. Something that you quickly learn as a waste disposal worker is that people have no limits in what they're willing to throw away into the trash. They really want to put every last thing in the garbage and just forget about it, and just let all these things leave a mark on your pretty little brain. Like a skinned sheep's head. You're expecting to see some apple cores, maybe at the worst some toilet paper with a little bit of poo on it, but you're not expecting to see a face that has been skinned like it's been popped right out of a Rob Zombie movie. And when it's right in front of you, it's already too late to close your eyes. Every time I go into a butcher shop and they have animals with the face still on it, it kind of just creeps me out. I'm like, ugh, could you imagine that being surprised on you? And imagine if you were vegan. That would probably ruin your week. Yeah, I don't think you want to see those kind of things. At number number 3, we have sex toys. Ooh. This is not to shame anyone. You do whatever you want with your bodies as long as you're not hurting anyone else. All your kinks are your business. I don't care. But looking at it from the perspective of a person who has to handle these things, I understand why they would not only be scary but also very gross. It's fun sharing those things with someone you like, not touching the ones from someone who threw them away in the trash and you don't even know them. Not only will waste disposal workers often find all sorts of sex toys in the garbage, but they will either find large amounts of them, literally boxes full of them. That's someone literally throwing away a box of fun. The workers suspect they must have been some sort of porn office inside the building, that's why they're throwing away so many sex toys. But much worse than that is some people will throw away soiled sex toys. Yeah, they still have all sorts of body fluids on them. Just thinking about this makes me gag a little. Ugh. Like, think about it, you would have to touch that. No thanks. At number 2, we have do not open. Something quite common that happens with garbage men is that they will find boxes or bags or containers that are labeled do not open. If you see something like this, you might think, oh, I have to open it. What if there's something dangerous in there, or a body part, something that could be linked to a crime? Well, I'm here to tell you that it almost never is. If you're going to get rid of body parts, you don't write do not open on the box. That's a little too obvious. It's more often than not a dead pet. The worst case was a chest freezer that was brought to the dump by a couple of brothers. They had taped it closed with duct tape and wrote do not open on the lid, but one of the garbage men insisted that they should take a look inside. Well, let me tell you that the smell alone was so bad it made a garbage man throw up. It takes a hell of a lot to make someone like that puke. What was in this chest freezer? Well, the freezer got disconnected from power and 40 pounds of halibut just sat in it for 4 days in the middle of summer. It's safe to say that the smell was toxic. And for the number 1 spot, we have computer files. This one was written on Reddit by a Reddit user, Sulco42. He said that he found a computer that was pretty high powered just sitting in the trash. He knows a thing or two about PCs, so he decided to take it home and poke around inside to see what he could find. At first, it was some pretty normal documents, but then he came across something extremely disturbing. The computer was packed full of child porn. He immediately took it over to the police. On the bright side, the police were able to take the computer and connect it to several other people, and a series of arrests happens and a bunch of sick people were behind bars because one guy thought it was a good idea to snoop around a computer. At number 10, we have a bear. When we go to throw out our garbage, you might think that the worst thing that's going to happen is that the bag is going to rip open and rain trash all over your feet like you just busted open a piñata made by Oscar the Grouch. But you're not thinking about a man-eating monster hiding in the dumpster, gnawing on all the things you threw away. You think that raccoons are going to be in there every now and again, but that a big old bear will work its way in there and try to find some treats? Well, this can happen. In fact, I have a clip for you. Will the person in the video get eaten alive by a massive beast, or will he survive the attack from his hairy opponent? Find out next time on Dragon Ball Z. Actually, find out right now. That is not how I thought this was going to play out when I first clicked on this video. I didn't know black bears were such scaredy cats. I guess next time you encounter one, you should just try to surprise them with something and it'll run off worse than OJ Simpson in a white Bronco. At number 9, we have pee bottles. Sometimes people fall on hard times and they have to do something drastic to get by. The only problem is being the guy who has to deal with the mess. A New York waste disposal man sent a very lengthy statement to his boss about how he no longer wanted to take trash out from one house because there was always jugs filled with human urine in the trash. What happened was the people living there couldn't afford to pay their water bill. Then the water got shut off, so that means there's no more water in the toilet. They had to pee in jugs to deal with this problem, and I don't want to know what they did with their poop. At number 8, we have puppies. Wait, what? Are you serious? What kind of monster throws away puppies? They are the cutest thing that walks the earth. This happens more often than you would think, but this is a specific story I'm going to share with you. A garbage man was taking garbage from the can into the truck. When he threw the garbage into the back of the truck, he could hear something yelping, and lo and behold, there was 5 puppies inside the garbage bag. He obviously took the poor helpless puppies out of the trash, gave them some water, and started cleaning them off a bit. Next, he didn't really know what to do, so he called the police, who launched an investigation to find out who the monster was who would do such a thing. They caught the guy, and he was taken to court. I'm not sure what the final verdict was, but I hope that they gave him a caning. At number 7, we have poop. So this one isn't really piggybacking piggybacking off the other one, but it's in the same vein. Now this one isn't as scary as it is disgusting, but a lot of people would put those things into the same category. Some people don't practice throwing your toilet paper into the toilet after you use it to wipe your butt, they actually put it into the garbage. Oh, that's gross. Every now and again some unlucky garbage man will go to throw one of these bags out, it will tear open and then rain poopy toilet paper all over them. It makes me think of the world's worst confetti. To up the ante a little bit, I had a buddy who was working as a garbage man, but he worked in the recycling side. So I guess you could call him like a recycling man, I'm not sure how that works. But what happened one day is he opened up someone's recycling container and there was poop all inside it. Either these people had been throwing their poop away in the recycling or someone came by and took a dump inside there. Either way, I'm happy to just make YouTube videos and not deal with those kind of problems. At number 6 we have biohazardous waste. All that stuff that hospitals are supposed to throw away in special containers because it's extremely dangerous for people to come in contact with. Yeah, all that, like needles, gloves, catheters, all the good stuff. Well, there's an extra fee to dispose of biohazardous waste because it obviously takes a little extra skill to deal with it. Well, to avoid this fee, some hospitals will throw out this extremely dangerous contaminated garbage with regular waste. So the garbage man will pick up the bag thinking it's normal banana peels and apple cores and get poked with who knows how many needles. I think you get to sue if that happens. Like, hey, your trash gave me tuberculosis, I would like some money for the horrible chest pain I'm gonna have for the rest of my life. Also, why are you putting egg cartons in the trash? Don't you know you can recycle those? Please be more responsible. At number 5 we have weapons. You think people would be hoarding their weapons, not throwing them in the trash, especially with the zombie apocalypse right around the corner. But every now and again a waste disposal worker will drop off some stuff at a landfill and find some knives or even swords tumbling out. Sometimes these items have been involved in a murder, and the discovery of them is the push the police needed to go forward with a case. Other times I would suspect it's a couple that just moved in together and the lady was like, hey, if we're gonna live together, you need to throw out this sword collection. But it's not just bladed weapons that have turned up in la poubelle. Firearms have also made the trip. One man reported working for a junk removal company. He had to move a large dresser out of a customer's house. When he took it to the dump to drop it off, one of the drawers opened up revealing a .357 Magnum. At number 4 we have ashes. When I die I think I want to be cremated. I don't really know where I want my remains to be spread. I think taking me to like a random place or like a famous mac and cheese store would be great. I would want my ghost to smell carbs and cheese for the rest of time. Either that or shoot me into space. Hopefully some aliens can find me and use their technology to reanimate me and turn me into some sort of alien human comic book hero with really nice tights. But if you want that kind of high class treatment for your ashes, then you better be super rich or the nicest person ever. Which is definitely not the situation this guy had. Some garbage men found the ashes of a man in the trash. It was a container with all of the man's contact information and the location of the funeral home who sold these people the urn. With this information, the police were able to backtrack the urn to the family. This was their dad's ashes. They were charged with unlawful disposal of remains, but they never gave a statement as to why they dumped him in the trash like that. I think it could have been one of two reasons. Either he was a jerk, he treated the whole family so bad they decided to just dump him in the garbage and forget about him. Or my other theory is that the whole family is just a bunch of nihilists and they were like, life is meaningless, death is meaningless, ashes go in the trash. At number 3 we have a mysterious photo album. I get why people want to look through another person's trash, not that I would ever want to do it, but there is a part of me that wonders what could be hidden in those piles of discarded items. This one especially. The story comes way of a college student who is working summers at a dump to try and pay off school. I would recommend working as a waiter, I don't know, but to each his own. He talked about a guy who came to the dump one day and asked for a hole to be dug so he could dump something. Right off the bat that sounds super suspicious. But apparently in some places this is pretty common practice because you don't want to throw something away in the dump that will make it an even more toxic place. Either that or this guy worked at a very sketchy dump. The kind of dump where you ignore a lot of human shaped garbage bags. Well, this guy pulled up in a big black SUV and threw out a photo album that had a massive knife stabbed through it. This guy never got to find out what the pictures were inside of it, but I can't imagine they were titled Summer Vacation 1999. At number 2 we have a religious sacrifice. Are you serious? You think cults would have proper ways to get rid of their offerings to the Dark Lord? They slit a goat's throat, roll around in the blood, and they're like, cool, what do we do with this goat now? a couple of waste disposal workers got the call from head office. The police needed them in a local park. When they got there, they saw a huge cross had been tied to a tree, and on that cross was 50 to 70 dead rats nailed right into it. And it was their job to get rid of the satanic trash. Hopefully touching it doesn't upset a succubus that sucks your soul out. And for our number 1 spot, we have unstable meth. Please, if you're using very dangerous chemicals, can you make sure you dispose of them properly? I understand people cooking meth in their home don't really care about the dangers of unstable chemicals, but just so you know, you can pretty much kill someone if you're not careful. A garbage truck driver in Kentucky nearly died when his garbage truck burst into flames. What happened was someone disposed of some home-cooked meth taped in a pot. The driver had no idea that this had been thrown into the back of the truck, and when it started to compact, the chemicals ignited, which caused a chain reaction, lighting up all the garbage in the truck, and then eventually the entire truck itself. The driver was able to make it out of this situation, but he had burns all over his body.
Starting off in our number 10 spot, we have actual trash. This one is on the less mysterious side of today's list, and more on the upsetting side, to be completely honest. Humans like to leave their trash everywhere, unfortunately, and that has now seemed to reach even places humans can't really go. I'm talking about the garbage that was found at the deepest point on Earth. Director James Cameron took a venture down to the Challenger Deep, which is located in the Mariana Trench, and here he found none other than a plastic bag and candy wrappers littering the bottom. Nice to be able to make history on such a dive and also have that fun little discovery. This dive took him almost 7 miles below the ocean, which is 5 times longer than the Grand Canyon, just to put things into perspective.
At number 9, we have fire in the hole. Here's the thing, guys, if you smoke, make sure you dispose of your cigarette butts in the right way. If you don't, there's a chance you could set something ablaze and possibly hurt a lot of people. It's more common than you would think. Someone just throws a cigarette butt into a garbage, it touches some paper or plastic wrapper, and then the whole thing catches flame and it starts burning like it's the 4th of July fireworks or something like that. Do a quick Google search of burning garbage and you can find a ton of these videos. In fact, I got one for you right here.
Hey man, got a big box of porn for you.
A big box of porn. Apparently this is very common. When some people are done with their massive porn collections, they will send it to the great adult store in the sky by throwing it right into the garbage. I think this is becoming less and less common because no one buys copies of porn anymore. Everyone just keeps it digital, and if you don't want it, you can just delete everything. You don't have to leave your shame in the garbage for some poor garbage man to find. Or a lucky garbage man, depending on how you want to live your life. Although I don't recommend keeping trash porn that you find. I think it's so disgusting that even the devil would kick you out of hell and then just send you to like Florida or something. I don't know what's worse. Just kidding, guys. I love Florida. You guys have a great vibe over there. You're very crazy and I appreciate it. At number 7, we have mortar launchers. I thought you could only get those at the military, but I guess some people have ways of getting their hands on expensive tech. And then once you have it, you think this would be something you would keep around, not just leave it in a landfill. Well, a young man was working in a landfill when he came across a working mortar launcher. Don't freak out too much though, there was no mortars in it, which is really where all the fun is had with the explosives. Having a mortar launcher with no mortars is like having a hot pocket with no filling and it's still frozen. It's just frozen bread with no fun inside. That's it. Well, because this thing was no danger to anyone, without the explosives, he didn't call the police or anything, he just took it home. Which I guess is fine, it's fine with me, I don't know what he used it for. At number 6, we have for science. Here's the thing, guys, everyone makes mistakes. You work a hard, long day in a hospital, and then when everything is wrapping up, you just want to get out of there as fast as possible so you can meet your boys for a cold one. Instead of checking the labels or anything, you just dump everything in the trash, call it a day, and then you head out. But then you find out that you threw away a gallbladder that needed to be tested for cancer. This is a true story. A lab tech at a hospital accidentally threw out a gallbladder that needed to be tested. The solution was to call the waste disposal company that was in charge of removing the hazardous waste from the hospital and then having them dig through the trash and try to find it. A super gross job, but someone had to do it. It was literally to save someone's life. At number 5, we have a bag full of dead pets. A garbage man wrote about this and he said he could smell it before he even got close to it. The can reeked like someone had just shoved a month-old tuna sandwich right up his nose. It was almost impossible to bear, but as a garbage man, that is your job. You need to deal with the smell and take whatever stinking thing is thrown at you and then put it in the back of the truck truck. Well, he pulled the lid off the can and then saw a bunch of dead cats. He didn't know how this happened or where it came from. Did someone kill them? He contacted the police, but that's where the story goes cold. At number 4, we have blood. Ugh. This one was thrown onto Reddit by Redditor 98 Ford Contour. They said they worked in New York as a waste disposal worker, and for many years they came across a bunch of horrible things. Most of the time it wasn't that bad, you could just pick it up and throw it in the back of the truck, but on one occasion it was a little too much for the people he was working with. There was a pile of bags and flowing out of them was blood. Not just a little, like it was pouring out of them, making a nice little blood puddle on the ground. Ford Contour and his partner were both standing there and they had no idea what to do with this situation. Their superior got out of the truck, took a look at the situation and said, let's keep moving. Some things are too crazy for even the garbage men to touch and they don't want to deal with it, and I don't blame them. You have to touch a blood pouring out of bags? That's gross. At number 3, we have female IDs. You find a bag of female IDs and you might think there's nothing weird about it. Maybe a bunch of ladies decide to throw out their IDs all together, but then you realize that no one ever does that and only 2 things really could have happened. Someone is trying to steal people's identities so they can break into their bank accounts and get all their moolah and then spend it on whatever they want to spend it on, probably like McDonald's gift cards. What else would you spend it on? That's like the best thing ever. And the other option would be that there's someone killing ladies and taking their wallets, which actually sounds more accurate. Someone found a bag full of IDs. He called a bunch of the ladies who the IDs responded to. One of them actually responded and he gave her the whole bag. He's like, this is yours. Later that year there was reports of a serial killer taking out girls between the age of 18 and 24, but the bag of IDs was long gone by then. At number 2, we have something is moving. This one made me gag a little, I'm not gonna lie. A garbage man was walking up to a pile of garbage one hot summer day and he saw something that looked like a pile of moving garbage. It was writhing around on the ground. Part of him wanted to turn and run, but curiosity kicked in and he went to investigate. He got closer and realized that it wasn't garbage at all, but a giant pile of maggots. They were shaking and moving and crawling all over each other like some sort of massive ball of living jello, and the smell hit him. He'll never forget the rotting flesh smell, worse than the most brutal hangover farts you could imagine. He felt the vomit flowing up to his mouth, but not before he saw it. Sitting at the center of this larva soup was a skeleton, an animal skeleton. It looked like it could maybe be a cat or a raccoon, but it probably got stuck under the garbage or crushed by something and then died there, and then the maggots moved in and picked its body clean, leaving only the bones. And for the number 1 spot, we have a cranium. This one was written on Reddit by someone who deleted their account, so I couldn't give them credit, but they wrote about a story that was sweeping through their neighborhood. Some garbage men were doing the normal rounds and they came across a human head. I bet as a waste disposal worker you come across some really gross stuff, but I think this would take the cake. The sight of a severed head looking back right into your soul would probably scar you forever. There isn't enough sick leave to make you forget that one. I don't think we have to mention that the police got quickly involved in this. I don't think you just ignore someone who lost their head and threw it into the garbage. And what kind of person is getting rid of human faces nonchalantly? I think that's something you should at least bury or try to flush down your toilet or something. Like, put in a little effort if you're gonna cut heads off. At number 10, we have loose needles. A definite danger of being a garbage man is picking up a bag full of waste and you have no idea what's inside them. You expect that the worst thing that will happen will be some garbage juice spilling onto your shoes, but it can get way worse and very dangerous. A garbage man in New York was about to pick up a big plastic bag when he noticed something poking out of the bag. After a little inspection, he found that the bag was full of 2 things: rotted meat and a bunch of needles that had no protective sleeves on them. So if he would have grabbed the bag the wrong way, there could have been a chance that the rotted meat juice would have worked its way into his bloodstream. I can't imagine what that would have done to a person. If you can get coronavirus from eating bats, then what could you get from hot, wet, dead meat juice going right into your veins? Well, probably dead, but that's just me guessing. Who knows what the world has in store for us.
In our number 9 spot today, we have a robot hand. On the eerily named Great Kills Park Beach in Staten Island, one autumn day a person was having a nice stroll when they stumbled upon something that had obviously obviously washed up ashore from the ocean. This something turned out to be a lonely robot hand. There was no robot body, or any other piece found for that matter, which leaves me with one question. Has anyone seen a handless robot running around? I honestly just don't know what someone was doing with a robot near the ocean, because it seems obvious that those two things don't mix. In our number 8 spot today we have the Apollo 11 mission engines. Okay, this one isn't exactly trash, but we also aren't about to use it either. We'll call it an artifact. In 2013, off of the coast of Florida, just a casual 14,000 feet under the water, the engines from the Saturn V rocket, which was the rocket used in the Apollo 11 mission that sent Neil Armstrong, Michael Collins, and Buzz Aldrin into space on the mission to the moon, were found after 43 years. The mission to recover these missing engines was funded by Jeff Bezos, who apparently said that the Apollo 11 mission was what fueled his passion for science and engineering. On the mission, once at an altitude of about 38 miles, the first stage of the spacecraft, including these engines, separated from the craft. The parts are then just considered lost or destroyed for forever, which is why they can be on a list of trash found in the ocean. That was until Mr. Bezos spent his money to find them. In our number 7 spot today we have a train graveyard. Okay, again, not so much trash, more of an artifact, but this list would not be interesting if I only talked about plastic bags and candy wrappers. Off the coast of New Jersey, about 90 feet under the water, archaeologists found 2 extremely rare and well-preserved steam trains that are from somewhere around the 1850s. While this is an incredible and super cool find, the question remains on how they ended up at the bottom of the ocean. There's no record of the trains either being built or lost for that matter. The best theory as to what may have happened here is that perhaps the trains were being transported by sea when a storm hit, and then maybe the crew was forced to push them overboard to prevent capsizing. I don't know a lot about boats or trains, but that sounds like a pretty reasonable explanation. In our number 6 spot today we have a giant Lego man. If you stumbled upon an 8-foot tall Lego figurine that had been washed ashore by the ocean tides, you'd probably have a couple of questions. Right? Well, what if people in the Netherlands, the UK, Florida, and Japan all had that experience? Even weirder, right? Well, a few years ago that's exactly what happened, but luckily this isn't some ominous message from some sort of scary being, but instead it was the works of an artist called Ego Leonard. The Lego figures are apparently what is referred to as, quote, his thing. Each Lego person has a shirt with the words, quote, no real than you are written on them. In our number 5 spot today we have a lot of rubber ducks. When I say a lot, I mean a lot. Like literally thousands being washed up onto the shores in Hawaii, Alaska, South America, Australia, Scotland, and sometimes not even washing ashore at all, just simply being found floating out at sea. Colloquially known as the friendly floaties, it is said that all these rubber ducks all originate back to the same shipping container, and guess what? This shipping container apparently fell overboard on its way from Hong Kong to the United States all the way back in 1998. That's way too long. This crate apparently was carrying 28,000 ducks at the time, so it's no wonder we haven't found them all yet. While this is a horrible case of plastic pollution, scientists have used this disaster to enhance their knowledge and understanding of ocean currents and plastic pollution. So I guess that's one good thing that came out of something terrible. Sometimes you have to make lemonade out of rubber ducks, or however that saying goes. In our number 4 spot today we have medicinal pills. Somewhere around 2,000 years ago there was a cargo ship that capsized just off of the coast of what is now Italy. Fast forward a bunch of years to just a few decades ago, and the wreckage of that ship was found and quickly brought up because how exciting. In the searching of the vessel, many fun and exciting things were found, like wine bottles, glass jars, and even medical equipment, but perhaps the most exciting of all of the discoveries was found in a tin vessel. These vessels were found during an x-ray of the ship, and inside the vessels they found tightly sealed medicinal tablets. It is said that after further research it was determined that these tablets were used as medicinal eye wash. I don't know, that sounds terrible. I also don't know how they figure these things out, but hey, I guess that's why it's not my job. But my job's fun because I still like to know about it. In our number 3 spot today we have an ancient fishing weir. Okay, I had to look up what a fishing weir is because I did not know, so if you're like me and don't know, a fishing weir is defined by Wikipedia as, quote, an obstruction placed in tidal waters or wholly or partially across a river to direct the passage of or trap fish. Okay, cool. It's a fish trap. So we found an ancient one of those. Nice. This thing was found in 2014 just off of the coast of a Canadian island. It is said that the underwater area where this fishing weir was found dates back to at least 13,000 years ago, which makes it the oldest known weir to man. Researchers believe that it was used by an ancient civilization living on the land to catch salmon, but over time the sea level rose, which submerged the weir too far below the surface, as well as shrunk the land quite a bit. It is so cool that one discovery leads to all of this incredible information about times past on Earth. In our number 2 spot today we have Trash Island. How can we make a whole video talking about trash found in the ocean without talking about the Trash Island itself? Trash Island is one of man's worst creations, as it quite literally is a massive human pollution just chilling in the ocean. Also known as the Great Pacific Garbage Patch, which makes it sound far too glamorous for the reality of the situation, or the Pacific Trash Vortex. It basically is exactly what it sounds like, as it is a gyre of marine debris. The collection of plastic and other floating trash originates from the Pacific Rim, which includes countries in both North and South America, as well as Asia. The gyre is actually split into 2 areas: the Eastern Garbage Patch, which is between Hawaii and California, and the Western Garbage Patch, which extends from Japan to the Hawaiian Islands. I think the idea that we have to name them, and that there's more than one, might show that we are not necessarily in a great spot with the whole pollution thing. In our number 1 spot today we have a head. Don't worry, not a real human head, but honestly, still super creepy. This mannequin head washed up on the shore from the ocean for some unsuspecting person to have the fright of their life. This mannequin head is covered in gooseneck barnacles from its time spent at sea, which really adds to the eerie nature of it. This one is quite creepy and definitely would have been terrifying to find, but I think the more I look at it, the more I think it might actually be kind of beautiful in a weird way.
At number 10 we have veterans' grave markers. You think being in World War I and World War II would gain you an undying level of respect from everyone ever? Well, depending on what side of the war you're fighting on, obviously. Well, someone who works as a waste disposal worker said that they found a bunch of old World War II grave markers and medals in the trash. He said he was shocked to find them and that he had to look them up to make sure that they were real, and sure enough they were legit. This put him in a strange situation. What do you do with old war memorabilia that you find in the trash? It's not yours, but it's very hard to find who these belong to. I mean, you could sell them on the internet, but I feel like that would give you more bad mojo than pushing a toddler into a pile of mud right after you steal his Nintendo Switch. Well, he didn't try to steal them. He called the police because that seemed like the most logical thing to do, and then the police took care of it from there. You either give it to them or a museum. Like, I don't know who you leave it with, really. Well.
Coming into number 9, we have biomedical waste. Biomedical waste is dangerous for many reasons. It can spread diseases and viruses, in worst cases like Ebola. It can also contaminate environments, which is not ideal. This kind of waste needs to be disposed of properly. You can find this kind of waste in hospitals, from gloves, operational fluids, body fluids, needles, and all of that kind of stuff. Recently, a hospital in Trichy in the Indian city of Tamil Nadu came under fire after hazardous waste was found in their regular trash. Imagine being a garbage disposal worker and finding a fistful of bloodied needles. It's so gross. Although, spare a thought for those who specialise in biomedical waste. One disposal worker said that he saw a 2-week-old amputated leg sticking out of the trash. Ugh. Coming into number 8, we have a World War II code-breaking machine. What a find! For me, this is so interesting. In a Reddit post asking garbage workers what the weirdest thing they'd ever found was, one guy said his friend found an Enigma machine worth $10,000. The Enigma machine was key during World War II and was used by the Allies to crack the Enigma code used by the Nazis. Coming into number 7, we have an engagement ring and a pack of condoms. Another person on the Reddit thread said that a friend's dad who worked in the industry found an engagement ring and a pack of condoms in a disposable bag. Apparently the man always wanted to know the story behind it, and let's be honest, so do I. Coming into number 6, we have fake bombs. Sometimes people plant fake devices in bins just to cause a scene and mess with people. It is not ideal because it wastes so much of everybody's time. Nonetheless, it does happen quite frequently. This year alone, recyclers found fake pipe bombs outside a liquor store in Longmont, Boulder City, USA. This kind of thing inconveniences everyone as the whole street has to be closed down for hours. Luckily they're often fakes, but still these things do really need to be taken seriously. Coming into number 5, we have a dead raccoon alongside a dead alligator. Say what? A According to a thread on Bro Bible, one garbage disposal worker in New Orleans found a taxidermied dead raccoon dressed in baby toddler clothes alongside a taxidermied alligator. What is this? It sounds weird, but apparently at one school in New Zealand, kids are encouraged to dress up dead possums in clothes for dead possum beauty pageants. So maybe that thing also kind of goes down in the southern states of the USA? To be honest, I wouldn't be that surprised. Coming into number 4, we have a clump of plaster heads. This picture was posted on Reddit. Behold, a clump of plastered heads. Now, a person found this whilst trash picking and they noticed that every face was different, which is so creepy. Maybe it's an art installation? I don't know, but I don't like the look of it. Coming into number 3, we have the first ever Apple computer. A woman tossed out one of Apple's first ever computers, the Apple I, in 1976. Now, these are worth a lot of money now. It ended up at a recycling center in California where it was lifted out of the trash by staff members and sold at auction for $200,000. The recycling center even tracked down the woman who threw it out to give her a cut of the money, which is pretty nice of them. Coming into number 2, you knew it was going to happen on this list, we have bodies. Garbage disposal workers will tell you that actually this isn't that uncommon. Personally, for me, it seems like a stupid idea to try and dispose a body by throwing it out, but I guess some people aren't that bright. Obviously, like, someone's going to come along and find it, and yeah, maybe they'll trace it back to you. Gross as well. In Rome just this year, dismembered legs were found in a city trash bin. Now, this led to the arrest of a man who killed his sister. In Florida in August of this year, a headless body was found at a garbage dump. Oh, I would be so affected if I found that kind of thing. Finally, coming into number 1, just to leave this list on a happy note, we have a whole museum worth of crazy things. Ex-New York garbage disposal man Nelson Molina has been collecting rare and interesting trash his whole life. Now, after 20 years, he has filled a whole museum with the weird things he found on the job. His collection includes exotic lamps, erotic lamps, signs, artworks, x-ray images, and even more. For sanitation reasons, he can't open the museum to the public, but people can arrange private tours. I actually love this kind of thing. I think this place looks amazing and I'd be in some kind of like junk palace. I've always found there's something like really beautiful about lost items, so I really want to go here.
Let's kick off this list with an obvious one that is also terrifying. People. If you go poking around in a landfill, there's actually a pretty good chance you might find some dead people. There's a couple reasons why bodies are popping up in the trash. One of them is that killers will sometimes dispose of bodies by dumping them in trash cans. Sometimes serial killers will chop up a body into small packages and then dump the remains in several different dumpsters. They will often cross state lines to make it harder for the evidence to be tracked back to them. Could you imagine how stressful it would be crossing straight lines with body parts in your car? I think that's how I know I wouldn't be a good serial killer, because I would get too scared. Another reason bodies are found in dumpsters, this reason being much more sad, is because homeless people will sometimes fall asleep in dumpsters, and then when they get picked up, they'll fall and die. This is very heartbreaking. At number 9, we have a whole camper. Sometimes things you find in the garbage can be crazy because they might kill you, or other things just feel like they were pulled out of the Twilight Zone. Some of them are just so bizarre you have to ask yourself, what on earth happened here? There were some garbage workers in Wales who came across a whole camper. Now I bet you can picture this. Someone broke down a whole camper and chucked all the pieces into the trash and then took off. Well, actually it worked out in a way stranger way. Someone actually took the whole camper and put it on top of the dumpster. How did someone manage to move something that weighs probably thousands of pounds and put it on top of a dumpster? Well, that is unknown. The waste disposal workers were stumped by this one and they could not figure out. It could have been a group of people and they just lifted it, or did they get a crane? Was it some black magic? The case could not be cracked, but it was a huge inconvenience trying to get this giant camper off of the dumpster. At number 8, we have mangled heads. Holy moly, if you work in the game of cleaning up garbage, then get ready, because you might see some dead bodies. I don't think you get paid extra for that, but you might get a few days off. With pay, not too bad of a deal. I bet a few years into the job you would be begging to see a dead body just so you could get that paid vacation. I mean recovery time. Well, one garbage man got the scare of his life when he was in a landfill, dumping out the contents of the truck, and he saw a series of heads tumble out of the back. He shrieked in terror, which caused the other workers to run over. They were all bloodied and disfigured, and everyone started freaking out. Then upon closer inspection, it was revealed that they were all mannequin heads. They had just been used in a haunted house, and that's why they were so realistic looking and creepy. At number 7, we have electronics. Apparently this used to be a thing back in the day. People would drive behind big electronic stores and go through their garbage to see what they could find, and every now and again you would strike gold. It used to be policy to throw away damaged and dysfunctional goods, and people would take advantage of this. Apparently now you can't do this because companies caught wind of people digging through their trash, so they no longer dispose of malfunctioning equipment that way. They send it back to the supplier. I don't know if this one is an urban legend or true, but I like the idea of people furnishing an entire apartment with dumpster goods. It just seems so cost effective. At number 6 we have leftovers. You at home are probably thinking about food. Well, I'm going to tell you that this is not food. Well, it could be food if you were in a dire situation. So what do hospitals do with body parts after they amputate them? Well, they have to amputate them for a reason, so they might keep them for research, but what if the freezer is full? They don't want to just keep a chunk of human being laying around. Well, they have to dispose of it as hazardous waste. And who comes to get that? Well, special waste disposal workers will then take it to get destroyed. But if you're unlucky enough to look into the back of the truck, then you might see bones snapping and possible limbs spraying out blood as the thing crushes down on them. Ugh. At number 5 we have a house. This one's actually a happy one for you. After the devastation of Hurricane Katrina, a lot of people were getting the insides of their homes torn out and starting from scratch. There wasn't really a lot of options after all the flooding, but one New Orleans man saw this as an opportunity to rebuild his destroyed home. He would go through all the material that people were throwing away, find the good stuff, and started working on his own home. Through all this material he was able to recycle, he was able to rebuild his home for a fraction of the cost. That does warm your heart up a little bit. At number 4 we have a bunch of iPhones. Now this is suspicious. Why does someone have that many iPhones? What does this mean? I don't know, but a garbage man in Northern Ireland came across a ton of iPhones, like so many. What could he have been doing with them? Did he want to sell them? Maybe that was what he was doing, and then maybe he was throwing away the broken ones that didn't work. Maybe this guy repairs iPhones and all the things in the garbage were just spare parts. Or maybe he was a thief that had stolen them from a ton of people and wanted to sell them off. Or he'd been murdering people and then taking the iPhones as trophies, but then he decided to do some spring cleaning and he threw them out. At number 3 we have the Enigma. Part of dumpster diving is you need to have a keen eye for things. You gotta know what you're looking for because some things might seem like trash, but if you know how to spot something worthwhile, you might find a 1940s Enigma machine. What am I talking about? This can't be real. Well, Reddit says that it is real, and that's how the law works. On the Reddit thread titled Garbage Men of Reddit, what is the most illegal, strange, or valuable thing you have seen while gathering people's trash? Someone wrote about a summer they worked on a recycling plant and found one of the old Nazi Enigma machines just lying around. This is the machine the Nazis would use to make secret codes, and it was valued at $10,000. After that find, I hope he quit his job and then just spent the rest of the summer buying stuff off of pay-per-view and eating artisan donuts. That's what I would do. At number 2 we have actual heads. We faked you out with some fake heads, and I promise you that this one is real. Aren't you excited to find out what happened with all these heads that ended up in the trash? Well, the story doesn't have that much detail. It was a comment on a Reddit thread called Garbage Men of Reddit. What is the craziest, most disgusting thing you found during picking up trash? I guess there's a few of these Reddit threads flying around. I can't give the Redditor credit because he deleted his account, but the post was still up and lives on. The writer said that they were picking up trash on a busy street. They grabbed a bag, threw it into the back of the truck, and as it was being compacted, they saw the bag tear open and it revealed that it was full of dog heads. What the hell is going on? I guess the silver lining of this story is that at least they're not human heads, but I think if someone's doing that to dogs, it won't be long before they move on to people. And for the number 1 spot, we have the files. This was news to me, but in Germany there is something called Spülmüll Day, and this is when people get to throw away large items from their home. A very smart idea if you ask me. Well, one Redditor talked about this and he said that his dad and him used to drive around rich neighborhoods on this day and see what goods they could find. Some rich people will throw away stuff that is in great working condition. They found a big old roll top desk that was a little dinged up, but with a little elbow grease it would be as good as new. When they got the thing home, they realized that one of the drawers were locked. Obviously they wanted to get into it, so they pried the drawer open, and in it was a file folder that was labeled secret US government. They were like, okay, sick, and they started to read the files. All the files were plans for a howitzer cannon. At this point they decided to call the US embassy, and within 2 hours dudes in black suits arrived at their house, started asking them a bunch of questions, and then took the files and left. I don't know what happened to the person that the files belonged to, but I'm guessing they got fired for sure. You can't just leave that stuff lying around on the side of the street.